Hello everybody, it's Stephen here, the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly episode. It is episode number 352 from March the 31st, 2026, the end of March. And it looks like it's going out like a lion because we had thunderstorms last night. And I'm not sure what's doing outside right now, but it's very, very dark. Of course, it is 20 to 7 in the morning, so it is still kind of dark anyways, but I have a feeling it's raining out. Guess I'll stick my head out and find out. But in the meantime, what have I been up to? Well, excuse me for that. You saw this if you're on the live yesterday, my Monday morning coffee with Stephen. I did talk a little bit about this, so I'm not going to dwell upon it longer. It's pretty, yes. It's misshapen, yes. It's misshapen because of the way I did the edges. You know, it turned it inside out kind of a thing, and then right sides back out, pulling it through. And well, I forgot to clip around the curves before I pulled it through. And by the time I realized that, well, I wasn't pulling it back the other way and back through again because, well, I just wasn't. So yeah, it's a little misshapen. Tried to get it a little bit more even. And I had no luck with an iron for that. So it is what it is. I thought it was pretty, and I had big intentions for this. I was going to, put about 5 of them together into a big sort of square, and it was going to be for my coffee table upstairs, which is a glass top and it's round and it would look great there. However, I got thinking about it. When you join it together, you're going to have gaps. Excuse me, quilter's cough, as I was told yesterday. This is what this is called. Yeah, and then I thought it also takes a long time to make one of these. There are 9 pieces that go into this, so 3 rows of 3, and you have to sew them all together. And not that that's that difficult to do, but it is time consuming. And I got thinking, is it worth it? Sometimes you have to look at these in the hoop embroidery projects and they catch your eye and they might be on sale. Like this one was on sale, so I'm a sucker for a sale for embroidery patterns. And yeah, but you got to balance against your time. Is it really worth putting that kind of effort into something like this? And I have decided not for this particular piece. So it is finished, and it's sitting right now on one of my set of drawers, and I don't know, it'll probably go landfill, yeah, or something, because I'm just not happy with the way it turned out, and I'm not going to make any great deal of effort to correct that situation. Chalk it up to experience, move on. It was a little palette cleanser anyways, so I'm not too worried about that. I am worried about, but I'm getting through it, the Alaskan quilt. And here I've laid out for you the 3 sets of blocks that I have just finished. These take some time to make. They look relatively simple, but they're not. There's a lot of things you've got to take into consideration because you're sewing on an angle. And I am angularly challenged, as you know. So they're coming along. I think I'm starting to grasp how to use the ruler for cutting the pieces. There is a fair amount of cutting in this particular quilt design. And yeah, so I'm about to work on the 4th block set. There's 4 of the same block in each set. And I cut it yesterday, and I made a mistake. I cut the wrong fabric for the first bit. Now I was able to salvage half of those little pieces. I had cut 4 little triangles, or not 4, 40 little triangles. I needed 24. So I kept that 24 in there. The other 40 I cut from the right fabric, and I'm hoping, it's a kit, and I'm being very conservative with the kit. I'm using up every little scrap I can because, kits. And I don't know if I'll be able to get this fabric again next time. So fingers crossed with that. I am recording what I'm doing with each one of these blocks as I do it, and I'll be putting them up sort of as each week another installment to this, so that by the end, when I have the quilt all done, I will have a complete video or parts for a complete video showing you my journey with this particular quilt. This is not for the faint of heart. It's a beautiful quilt. You'll be attracted to it. I certainly was. And I've seen them in different colorways, and you know, they all look gorgeous, but for me it has been a bit of a struggle. So just to keep my sanity while I work on this, I started another project that's a little less intense, although it looks a little bit intense, and that's another table runner. Yeah, me and my table runners. I don't know why I make so many of them. Well, I do know why. Because they are projects that you can do in the hoop, and they're really beautiful. And I think to myself, well, if I have a supply of these around, I always have a hostess gift or something like that. The ironic part of all of that is we never get invited anywhere. So there you go. But nevertheless, I enjoy doing the in the hoop projects, as you know, and this is another one. It's called the Jacobean Floral Table Runner. And I think I have down in the show notes, I have a link to this particular pattern. It's an in the hoop project, so you need to have an embroidery machine to do it. And this one you can make any size you want, because this is an end piece here on the right, and you make two end pieces, and then these are the center pieces, and you can make as many of those as you want depending on how long you want your table runner to be. I think I will make probably about 3. And that will be fine for the spot where I'm thinking of putting it. Or maybe 4. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's just something I do when I'm sick and tired of cutting fabric for these projects that you have to do a lot of cutting for. Oh, like, for example, this one. Can you guess what this is for? I'm sure you can. You're probably familiar with East Quilt Company. And this is their kit that they're about to start a sew along with. John's about to start a sew along. And yeah, this is the first block. It's the quilt kit that's called, that looks like, that is about Peter Pan. It's called Second Star to the Right. And these are all the pieces I need for the very first block. Now, the very first block is actually Peter Pan himself. And if you've never done an Art East kit before, but you probably have heard people talk about them, it is a lot of cutting, but it is well worth it. And because this is a monthly sew along, and I'm assuming the way they're going to do it, they're having the big kickoff for that tomorrow night, that it won't be as overwhelming. I mean, it took me several hours to cut this number of pieces, and you can see I have them all laid out and I have them all numbered or lettered, and that's important. When you have this many little pieces, it's important that you have it, you know, well labeled so you don't screw up. So yeah, I am ready now to start sewing this first block together. I'm probably not going to do that though until I see what's happening on the kickoff tomorrow night, because there may be some tips and tricks in there that John, who's the designer and owner of Art East Quilt Company, he may have some tips and tricks that'll, you know, avoid some pitfalls if there are any. I have done one of his patterns before, not one of his, I want to call them a narrative quilt. They're a literary quilt, because many of his quilts are based upon classic books, like Peter Pan is. So yeah, I want to make sure, like the one that I did before was more a fun one called Cat Scratch. I did it several years ago, and that's when I learned about maybe you shouldn't cut all your pieces at once before you start, because you'll drive yourself batty. Even John himself says that too. You know, do it block by block to cut out your pieces, and I think that is definitely wise information. And I'm looking for more tips and tricks from John tomorrow night at the kickoff. So that should be fun. But John's patterns are very well written. So if you've never done one, I suggest you start off not with one like I'm doing. Start off with one of the smaller ones to get a feel for it. And but I can tell you, the instructions are absolutely, positively clear and correct all along the way. And that, you know, when you're dealing with something that has this many pieces, that's a good thing. It really is. And yeah, so Walter is continuing to work with his free motion quilting. He is getting damn good at it. He really is. And I'm very proud of the fact that, and jealous too, that he has the perseverance to stick with it, because you don't become a good long arm quilter overnight. You have to practice and you have to be dedicated to it. And he has been. So I want to show you what his latest stuff is looking like. He's doing it on a bed sheet right now, which is working out pretty good. Instead of having to use your good quilting cotton, he bought a couple of cheap bed sheets, and yeah, so we sandwiched it and he put it together, and this is looking really good. His circles, if you remember, when I first showed you when he started with circles, they were more boxes and circles. Well, they are definitely, this is what I mean, practice, they're definitely circles now. And his feathers, I mean, he's not happy about the feathers, but then feathers are one of the hardest ones to do. I know, I tried, I got discouraged, I gave it up. I have a computer on Lucy. Yeah. He is tempting me, in a sense, watching him do this, to try it as well, but I don't know. It's a lot of time to dedicate to this, and I have other projects I like. So, if one of us in the family becomes a long arm quilter like this, I'm the piecer. He doesn't like to piece. So it's a match made in quilting heaven. My ideal situation is I piece the quilts, I hand them over to Walter, Walter quilts them. Yeah. No, we are not opening a business. Okay. But here, look at this. When I came, it's like Christmas morning and going down looking under the tree to see what Santa left you. It's always a surprise. Well, he does this late at night. I am long gone to bed and asleep, and he is down here until like maybe 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning sometimes doing this, because he's a night hawk. So it gives him something to do at night. And when I came down and I saw this the next morning, I went, oh my God, this is absolutely wonderful. And I asked him, I said, okay, the straight lines across there, which basically is basting. I said to him, how did you do that? And he says, I put the channel lock on, horizontal, went across. Not only is he getting good at free motion quilting, he's learning how to use Lucy without me. I mean, my little boy's growing up. Yeah. So this is looking really, really good. Now, I know he did some more last night. This was a couple of nights ago. I discovered this. I forgot to go out and take a look at it this morning when I started recording this. So I will take a picture of what he's up to next. And on So Chatty this week, on Friday, I'll show you the latest at that point and have Walter talk about his experience. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. Okay, do I have anything else here to show you? No, I don't think I do. So just switch that over. Yeah, there's nothing there. Okay, so that takes me then to what's up. Well, sewing with me on Wednesdays. Link in the show notes. I'm not getting discouraged about it. I love my sew days. I love the friends that I have made on my sew days on Wednesdays, and they are friends. But we want new friends. All of us do that are on there. This isn't just about me, even though it's called Sewing with Stephen. It's about everybody else. It's an opportunity. And I harp on this. I know I do. You hear me talk about this all the time. But it's really there. It's an opportunity. I have taken a day out of my week, a whole day out of my week, and I do not schedule anything else on that day. If I have an appointment or something like that, I make sure I leave my Wednesdays free, because I want this as a resource, as an opportunity to be available to everybody, and I want to be consistently available. So you will find the link in the show notes. If you want to join us, you don't have to show up every week. You do not have to show up for the whole day. You don't have to show up at the very beginning of the day. We have one lady who could only make it at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3:30, and we end at 4 because she's in Hawaii. I'm in the Eastern time zone. She's like 5 hours, I think, difference. So for her, 3 o'clock, or well, 9 o'clock in the morning when we officially start is what? You do the math. 4 in the morning for her, and she's not a morning person. But she comes anyways, and it's great to see her. We catch up on what's going on in Hawaii with her and what project she's been working on while she's there. And so, yeah, that's the way we bounce with the group. We show each other what we're working on. We talk about our struggles with certain things and ask for help, and there's always lots of help. There is no judgment at all. We do not get into political discussions, but we have wonderful discussions about a variety of things. It just happens organically. I think this is the best thing I have ever done in my YouTube kind of thing. Now, it's not a YouTube live either. It is a Zoom link. It is not recorded. Nobody sees us working except ourselves. So if there's been things in there that have made you feel apprehensive about it, don't be. There is no need. I guarantee that you will have a great time, and you'll get something done too. And if you don't have to limit yourself to working on a quilt, it can be whatever you want it to work on. We've actually had a few people who weren't really in a sewing mood, but they came and had their coffee and whatnot and just socialized with the rest of us. So it can be whatever you want it to be. The opportunity is there. Please take advantage of it because it's there. Okay, so another thing to take the advantage of is the retreat. We're getting closer to the Idiot Quilter Spring 2026 retreat date. It is on April the 18th. However, and you know this by now, you do need to register. It's absolutely free, no strings attached, but you have to register to reserve your spot because I only have so many spots. I have 95. That's a lot, but they do fill up very quickly. A registration opens at 9 a.m. April the 4th. That's this coming Saturday. If you're watching this sometime in the future, that would be April the 4th, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. That's important. Time zones are important. And you can register. How do you register? All you do is send me via email. Where do you find my email address? Go down into the show notes of any one of my videos. You will see a little blurb there that says how you can find my email address, which is really in a section called About. There's even a link for it. Well, it tells you exactly where to find it. You go to that. You may have to prove that you're a human being. That's the way it works on YouTube. That's just clicking a box. And presto bingo, there's my email address for you. Why do I not publicize it while I'm talking about it right now? The reason is there are bots out there that skim through all of the YouTube creators' contents looking for our email addresses so they can bombard us with all kinds of scammy things. So yeah, that's why that system is set up that way. But find my email address on there and simply send me, all you need to do is send me your first and last name, real first and last name, no aliases, please, okay, because this is a security issue. And if the email address you have sent it from is different from the email address you want me to send you stuff about the retreat to, then put that in as well. If it's the same as the where you sent it, you don't need to do anything. I put you on the list. I reserve your spot for the retreat, and I will send you back within a half an hour a confirmation. And then you'll be getting more things as we get closer to the date of the actual retreat with the links, because it's all done by Zoom. It's virtual. And all the other information, the agenda for the day and things like that. Now, one of the questions that's come up is, what if I have to leave for an hour or two during the retreat? Am I kicked out? No. That spot is yours for the whole day. If you need to run an errand or something like that that comes up, you can go out and come back in, or you can just turn off your video and your microphone and leave it there and come back in. That is not a problem at all. Do you need to be there exactly on time when I officially start it, which will be 9 o'clock in the morning on the day of the retreat? That's for starting it. That's not registration. Registration opens at 9 a.m. Eastern, April 4th. Yeah, you can come and go as you please, and you will get an agenda. I have 3 guest speakers and other events happening, so it's all laid out in an agenda for you with the actual time of it. So if there's a particular speaker you definitely do not want to miss, but you need to go out, you can plan your day around that. So yeah, you will know everything you need to know. No problem. And if there's something I don't touch upon for you, you can always email me and I'll be happy to answer your questions. It's a great day, but back to registration. The door, if you try to register before 9 a.m. April the 4th, I will not register that. I'm trying to keep it fair because I have a limited number of spots. So it'll just get ignored and you'll have to send it again in the right time period. Now, I'll tell you something about this, and I mentioned this yesterday on the live, so sorry if it's a repeat, but I really want to make sure people are clear about how things work. If on the first day, when I first get up in the morning, come downstairs, and it's 9 o'clock, I will have registrations probably pouring in, if the past has been any indication of it. And I've run this now, I think this is the 8th retreat that I've had. So I've been doing this for about, oh, maybe not. I think the first one was in 2021. This might be the 10th one. Or 9th one, 9th or 10th. Yeah, because this is 2026, so 5 years. Yeah, hard to believe. And what it usually happens is, on the first day that the registration is open, I have about 45 to 50 people register right then and there. So that's about half the number I can handle. The next day, I'll get about half of that number again. And then it'll start to come in dribs and drabs for a little while. And about 3 days before the retreat is scheduled, there'll be an influx of more. So that's how it does it. It rides a wave. But I'm basing that upon past experience. It could be different this time. The bottom line is commit. If you want to come to the retreat, then register for it. Make sure that it works in your schedule. Don't sit on the fence and go, well, I might like to go, but I might have this on. You make sure you firm up your schedule for it, because there's something called the blacklist. And if you don't know what the blacklist, I'm not going to explain it here. There is a link to a video where I do all the explaining for the whole retreat. If you haven't seen it yet, it's on my channel. So you can click on that link and learn everything. So this coming Saturday at 9 a.m., April the 4th, registrations begun. Do not register before 9 a.m. Eastern. Okay? And I know for some of you that are like on the West Coast, you're going to go, well, that's 6 a.m. your time, and I'm in bed still. Stay in bed. You do not have to register right at 9 o'clock. After 9 o'clock is fine. As I've already said, that's why I told you what the trend is. But you are taking a little bit of a chance. I think if you get on at, let's see, it would be lunchtime. No, lunchtime my time. 12 o'clock would be 9 o'clock your time out on the West Coast. So, I mean, if you don't register until, 9 o'clock your time, you'll probably still get in. I think. No guarantee, but I think. Okay. If you have any questions, find my email address and write me a note. I'll be happy to answer that for you, or put it in the comment section. I do check the comments every day. So, yeah. Okay, that's enough about the retreat. Showed you Walter's FMQ. So let's go to subscribers' comments from the last week. Rosemary wrote, Tucker size, the Alaska quilt. Jackie O'Brien of If These Threads Could Talk, lovely lady, she sent me her PDF. Unfortunately, I had already bought and started with the Creative Grids ruler. Okay, a little confusing, this message, but I think the point that Rosemary is making is, and I've heard this from another subscriber as well, that the Tucker rulers could be used in place of, with the Alaskan quilt, of the one that was designed by the designer for the Alaskan quilt. I am familiar with the Tucker rulers. I have a couple of them. I'm not sure how well they would work. Like for me, I've pretty much mastered how the ruler that is meant for the Alaskan quilt works, so I'm not going to bother buying any more rulers for this. This quilt's expensive enough as it is. But there is an alternative, and you know, some of you may have a lot of Tucker or Studio 180 is what they're called, rulers. So if you decide to do this quilt, you might want to look into it. And it seems like maybe this Jackie O'Brien, I'm not familiar with this person, probably on YouTube. If these threads could talk, she must do something with it. I don't know. So yeah, thank you for that, Rosemary. It's another resource. And Inez writes, I call it quilter's cough. I have it every morning. So yeah, that's what I said at the beginning of this. That seems to happen to me every morning. Now, in a more serious way, though, I have done some research into this. If you do a lot of sewing, thread can be linty, and it can put out little microparticles in the air, and you breathing that in. And that could be one of the causes. That and my 3D printers, and I talked about that yesterday on the live. But I do have an air filter with a HEPA filter in it here in this room, close to me, and I watch it all the time because it measures the particulate that's in the air, the microparticles, and it's usually in the green zone, which is a good thing. So, yeah, I put it down to the fact that I'm old. That's what Walter tells me. You're old. And it's early in the morning when I do these, when I record them. So I haven't yet used my voice for the day. So yeah, I'm sorry about the hacking up a green one there. Ooh, that's disgusting. Think about that. Okay, now that you've got a visual image in your mind that you'll never be able to erase, sorry. Yeah, that I blame it on atmosphere. You know, early in the morning, dry. Haven't got myself going yet. Okay, so thank you for those comments. And as I said, I check my comments all the time. So if you have a comment about anything today that I've been talking about, please put it in the comment section. And I'll be happy to, if it's something that I think everybody would benefit from, then I will talk about it here. Yeah, I'm not going to ask your permission. I'm going to do it anyways. You put it in the comments. That's public forum. You're fair game. Yeah. Okay. Reviews and demos. Well, last week on So Chatty, we're carrying on with our series on using the Accuquilt, and I showed you how to use it with the companion applique embroidery files that are on the Accuquilt site. And I showed you two methods. I showed you their method, and I showed you my method. And my method is a bit of a cheat because you don't necessarily need to own the die to do my applique method with the files that you can get with Accuquilt. I shouldn't tell you them, although they might get upset with me if they knew that I was doing this. But anyways, if you haven't seen that, it's up there. Check it out. And this week, I'm going to show you how to make that square that's right. Let's see if I can get my fingers. This one right here. Not that one. This one. Yeah, this is awkward. Left is right, right is left, up is down, down. Okay. Right there. That's called a carpenter's wheel. And I did it all on the Accuquilt using the Accuquilt die for this that I've had for literally several years that I never took it out of its packaging. And so I did that, and which in effort to show you how to do something, some of the more complex kind of blocks. So that's what you will see on So Chatty this week. I have another couple that have never been unwrapped. One is a Mariner's Compass block, and the other one is a double wedding ring. Yeah. And with the double wedding ring, there's curves in that. And Accuquilt sets it up for you for success in sewing curves if you have trouble with it, which I do. So those are going to be future episodes as well for Accuquilt series that we're doing here or that we're doing on So Chatty. So stay tuned. Okay. Now I have a little bit of a review. I bought something new, I'm sure you're familiar with the Opinionated Quilter, and if you're not and you're coming to the retreat, you will be, because Maureen, the Opinionated Quilter, is one of my guests. I was thrilled that when I sent out a feeler to her asking if, she'd be willing to do it, I got an answer back from her really quick, and she said she would absolutely love to, which I am very appreciative of that. And so she will be one of my guest presenters, talking about how she works with scraps and other things. She is wonderful. If you've never checked out her channel, do. The Opinionated Quilter is what it goes by. And she's no nonsense. This is what I love about her. She's scary. Yeah. I mean, when I first came across her, I went, ooh, I wouldn't want to get in her way. But no, she is very, very knowledgeable about what she's doing. I'm sure she's been quilting for years and years, and she shares that expertise with everybody else in a no-nonsense manner. She tells you like it is. There's all kinds of hacks out there and things like that. People say you should do this or do that, and she goes, no, this is the way you do it. This is the best way. Do it. And she's right. She is right. So, yeah, how did I get on talking about her? Well, because she showed this resource that's available, and it's called the Quilt Binding Bible by Marci Baker. And I listened to what Maureen had to say about this, and I immediately ran to Amazon and ordered it, and I have it now, and I have it in my little hands right here close by me. It is the Quilt Binding Bible. It is everything you ever wanted to know about binding. And there's different ways, like styles of binding. And if you have trouble with, notice in the picture here, there's a curve. If you have trouble doing curve binding, this book has it sewn up. So, oh, that was a pun. Yeah. So I did a little bit more in-depth review of this, and I'm going to insert that review in here now. So the other day I was watching the latest episode of the Opinionated Quilter, who, as you know, is going to be one of my guest presenters at my spring retreat. And she was talking about this new resource that she had available, and it's called the Quilt Binding Bible by Marci Baker. And I was really curious about this, and I listened to what Maureen of the Opinionated Quilter said about this, and I thought, I think this would be something very handy to have. And the reason for that is because it says 25 flawless finishes, techniques, and troubleshooting. I'm tired of doing the same old binding on most of my quilts and projects, and I've wanted to go out and learn how to do a flange binding and that kind of thing. And yes, there are lots of things on YouTube showing you how to do it, but I never get around to looking at those. Plus, I'm a little afraid to do striped binding because, when you get to the corners and mitering them, that could be a problem. And curves, wow, I stay away from curves. In fact, that's what Maureen said as well, because she had a customer that asked her what was the best way for binding something that had a curve. And she said, basically, the best way is don't do it. So then she mentioned this book. And so I thought, well, if it's good enough for Maureen, why am I having trouble with her name suddenly? With the Opinionated Quilter. Now I'm all off track here. Let me get back on track. Then it's good enough for me. So Amazon, of course, had it, and it was in Canadian dollars. I think it was around $38 or $32, something like that I paid for it. And well, I'm just going to take you very quickly through it so you get a sense of what this book is about. Amazon does allow you to see quite a few of the pages of the book, but what I really want to focus on is their table of contents. So this will give you an idea of what you're going to find in this book. So you have the introduction, pros and cons, and you have a few basics. And so they talk about making a sample binding, setting up your sewing machine, grain, how much fabric do you need, cutting strips on straight grain, cutting strips on the biased, joining them together, pressing. So all the basics are there right off the bat. And I know a lot of people do struggle with binding. So this right then and there is going to pay for itself. But then you have simple finishes like self-binding and turned, or what they call the pillowcase or envelope type, and knife edge. I'd never heard of the knife edge binding before. Then different binding finishes like basics in double folding binding, single fold binding, striped binding. That's something I'm very interested in. Pieced binding. Yes, pieced binding, because there are some tricks you need to know about that. Making a wide binding, and even making miniature bindings for if you're into miniature quilting. Of course, if you're into miniature quilting, you probably already know how to do the binding. There's something called artist binding I've never heard of before. And then here's another one that attracted me to this book, curved binding. Because there's many times that I stay away from making table runners, especially the ones that are in the hoop in my embroidery machine, because they have a curved edge to them, and I'm not really sure how to go about binding them. And then they talk about piecing binding at the binding at mitered corner, facing binding, etc. And then they even talk about extending these with things like the flange binding, full flange, binding with piping and lace and tatting, and extended finishes. So how you can put something they call, well, prairie points. I've done those once in my life. Ruffles and petals. I'd never heard of petals before, so that's an interesting looking technique as well. And then she has some practice projects in this book as well for these various bindings that you can put together quickly and try out different types of binding on it. So as I said, the book is by Marci Baker. Having trouble with names today for some reason. And it is very good. It also has video tutorials as well. She has her own channel, and also the publishing company, which is C&T Publishing, have a channel as well, which have more than just about binding in this book. They have a lot of very interesting tips, techniques, things you might be interested in knowing. There's some pictures here of some of the projects. And it goes on. Now, Amazon only gives you so many pages to look at in the book. She has a chart which tells you all about the pros and the cons of the different types of binding. And I found that really interesting because she talks about long wearing, whether you should do it on the straight or the bias. So that's good to know. And she has, of course, this is extended over 2 pages, the pros and cons of each type of binding. So that gives you a very educated guess at, or educated, what do I want to say, decision that you can make as to which kind of binding you want to use for whatever kind of project you're working on. Then she goes into a few basics. This is part, if you're already an experienced quilter, this is more of a glance over, because a lot of this stuff you probably already know, but for a beginning quilter, this is great. And she also includes a chart in here as to how much binding you need depending on how wide the binding is going to be and how big your quilt is. And she gives you some mathematical formulas, which at first glance look a little intimidating, but they're really not if you sit there and think about what she's telling you here for figuring all of this kind of thing out. And she talks about converting fractions to decimals to inches. And I think there was a section of the back of the book where she gets into metric as well. She has lots of diagrams throughout the book to show you exactly how to cut your binding and how to attach it, which I find very helpful because I do tend to be more of a visual learner. And yeah, a lot of really good, useful information all in one neat little package. And it's really, considering how much information you're getting, it's really inexpensive. And as I said, I'll just go back to the store, and I got it on Amazon.ca. It's available on Amazon.com for you Americans. For me, as a Canadian, this book cost me $28.45 plus tax. So it brought it to a little over $30. I think it is a good investment. I'm going to keep this out and handy where I can instantly get my hands on it anytime I'm working on a project, or if I need a quick review on, on binding, or I want to try something new. So that's the Quilt Binding Bible by Marci Baker. So I highly recommend this book. And I just want you to know I am not sponsored by that. I don't get a penny for telling you about this book. I only tell you about things that I believe in, and I believe in this. Okay, so subscribers creation of the week. This beautiful creation comes from Mary Bremer. This week's quilt from a subscriber comes from Mary Bremer. Bremer. Sorry, Mary, I'm butchering your last name. And she says, I thought you might get a chuckle out of this quilt. I just finished. I was making the Jacob's ladder block and had made all 80 blocks. Getting all the seams to line up was a challenge. So after way too much stress that I didn't need, I chopped up all of the blocks and made the quilt my way. I thought it came out very interesting, although I'm a little too modern for this old lady. Well, let's take a look at this. So I have often thought, but have not tried it, to chop up blocks that I didn't really like and make it into something new. And I really think this turned out quite nice. It's quite, yeah, it is modern. It is very modern in what you have created, I think. And I love the way it goes together. And here's a close-up of the quilting on the back. She just did a simple meander, which is great. And her label, nice little label there. Looks like it's probably been embroidered, or maybe not sure. But it is a really nice creation. So thank you, Mary, for sending that on to us. And just to show people that you shouldn't be afraid. If you've got something you're not liking, then make it so you will like it. Just chop it up and sew it back together again, and who knows what you're going to come up with, as Mary did here. Thanks again, Mary. So if you'd like me to feature one of your creations here on the Idiot Quilter, please just send it to my email address, one picture in JPEG format, just one picture, please, and a little blurb, less than 50 words, telling, what it is, what the pattern or something about it or whatever. And I'd be happy to feature it here. And I'm starting to run out in my pile of ones to show. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you could send me something you would like me to feature here. Okay, so the YouTube short tip of the week is another block. I have never seen this particular block before, and it's called the Americana Flower Farm block. This week's YouTube short tip is a block, and this block comes from something that looks like it was probably a sew-along called the Americana Flower Farm Quilt Along, and this is one of the blocks, and I thought the block was kind of interesting. Something a little unusual, and something that looks like you could probably make it with scraps as well. So regardless of what the final quilt that they're using this block from will look like, I think you could make a really interesting quilt using this particular block, and it looks pretty simple to do. So this might give you some creative ideas as well. Okay, so that takes me to my series. It's becoming a series now about my adventures with the Alaska quilt as I put it together. I showed you last week how I organized all the fabrics that were in the kit, and the trials and tribulations of that. And now I'm going to show you the trials and tribulations of doing block 1. So I've picked some colors to make the first block, and the first block you need C's and you need D's in the templates, so or the shapes that you're going to cut. So these are the colors that I picked, and I've labeled them as print 4, print 2, print 1. So I can keep these straight for future blocks that I'll be making. I'm supposed to cut them with a fabric strips, and I have to cut some C fabric 5-inch strip, a C fabric 5-inch strip in this print color, and in this print color 5-inch strip, and then in this color 3.5 inches. Okay, so I have done that already. Now I've already cut some of the print number 4, the C's, and I'm going to show you how I did these to make these diamonds. So I'm going to get this out of my way, and we're going to work with this one. And I'll just take this off of here, and I'm going to open this up because it's my strip with the fabric, and I want to get rid of the selvage. So I'm just going to line this up on my cutting mat, making sure the bottom edge is straight and the top edge is straight, and then I'm going to cut this off. Okay, now I'm going to take the Alaskan ruler, if I can find it, right here. And I want to cut, now I'll be cutting this upside down to you. Okay, this is towards me. So anyway, can do this. All right, so I need this part of the ruler, the big triangle, and I'm going to find the 5-inch mark, and I'm going to lay it down on my fabric. And since this is going to be my first cut, I think I have 2 layers of fabric here. Yes, I do. I'm just going to put it right up to the corner at the bottom along the 5-inch line and cut both sides. Now, I think I would use my rotary map for this, my big one, although this isn't too awkward to do. Okay, so there's my first piece. And then you continue down your strip, just turn the ruler 180 degrees. Find that 5-inch line, line it up with the corner, and make sure the edge is straight. And things line up on that 5-inch line and at the top. And cut again. Now I don't need many of these pieces for the first block, so that's all I'm going to cut from this right now. So now I have these done. I do have another 5-inch strip, so let's do that again. Make sure I put my little sticky notes on this so I know which is which. And this is print 1, and I need to do the same thing as I just did. I'm going to cut off my selvage, line it up, just go over that line a little bit because it's a little shorter when I folded it. Cut off the selvage. Okay, take my ruler, my Alaskan ruler, line up the 5-inch line and the corner of the fabric at the bottom. Okay. Cut. Cut. And then 180 degrees, turn, find that 5-inch mark. And cut. Okay, so I've got 4 more pieces of that. Just put this way. And now the only other thing I have is I've got to cut the 3.5-inch strip. Find it here. Here's my 3.5-inch strip. And where are my instructions? I just want to double check the 3.5-inch, the shape of it. Now it is a half square triangle. So, as you can see here, this is the one I'm talking about. So to make the half square triangle, just open up my fabric here. Let's cut off the selvage. Okay, so to make the half square, I'm just going to take a look again at my instructions because they're all listed here. Yeah, so I need, according to the instructions, I need this part of the ruler and I need to line it up, right angle, straight edge up here, and this is going to be 3.5 inches. So lining up the 3.5-inch mark along here, making sure it's straight up there. So cut, and then we're just going to cut from diagonally from corner to corner. Okay, so I have my 3.5-inch half square triangle pieces cut. All right, let's lay these out and organize them here. because I could see how you could easily get somewhat confused. And that's why I think my plan is I'm going to work on one block at a time, but this is a test block. This isn't my actual fabric I'm going to use. So there, I have them all laid out. And I think I should take my sticky notes and indicate what each one is. So this is print 2, print 1, and this is print 4, the purple. So P4, and it is a piece C. And this is print 2, and it's a C. And this is a print 1, and it is a C. And this is a print 1, and it's a D. Okay. Pieces are all labeled. Sticky notes are a wonderful thing. So I have them all labeled here. Not sure if you can see that. Now, I think I'm ready to make one block. And I'm looking at the instructions that show you, and it tells you step by step how to attach these. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've already sewn a few of these pieces together. I need 4 of these pieces. And it's actually fairly easy because it's all straight line stitching, although it looks a little funny. And so this is one of the units, and you need 4 of these units, except one of those units will have a different color here. And I can only assume, well, I know if I look at the diagram, that this will match up. Let me get it out here. This piece is going to match up with other pieces of a similar color, and it's sort of a secondary pattern. It'll build. So you want to sew this piece on top of here and line it up straight. And I've been using clips on this as well, just to keep things all lined up and straight. So getting it all lined up here. I'm going to be sewing down that edge. It's a little awkward for me to do this because I'm doing it upside down for me. For you, it's upside right. Okay, and then stitch it, press it, and there's no instructions for which way you should press these that I can see. Or maybe that's maybe pressing it. Right now, I'm just pressing them towards the darker fabric of the two. And if I need to press it to something else, then I will. I can repress. But, okay, so I'm going to sew this one, and then I'm going to open it up, press it, and I'm going to sew this piece on top of the purple piece here. Pick it up. And have about a 1/4 inch from the points on each side. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like. So I have my pieces all laid out, and I probably should turn it this way. No, I'm turning it this way so you can see it the way it goes. With that darker one down here, as I said, that's going to be part of another piece later on, I think. So that color will make sense, hopefully. And I'm going to sew, now according to this, I need to sew this one to this one to this, and then I'll have 2 halves and sew it all together and then trim it up. So I'll come back and show you what that looks like. I have it all sewn up, and actually that was pretty easy. The only thing I would recommend is that you make sure when you're sewing across these angles that your needle ends at the intersection, at the point. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but you get it when you see it. I've trimmed it up, and it is exactly 9.5 inches unfinished. I think when I was trimming it up a little bit that I got kind of close to my points up here. I think I'll be okay. But since this is just a test block, it doesn't really matter that much. But just to be aware that to be very accurate in the way you line up your seams. And of course, I nested my seams as well, and that will help you with that. It looks pretty good in the center. I've got my points all there without cutting them off, and I have points all around here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance for the most part, where I'm supposed to have it. So yeah, I don't think this is going to be that difficult. The only thing I'm going to recommend is take your time, don't rush it, and make sure you cut accurately with this. Yeah, but I think this is going to work out. So this is block 1. So what I'm going to do now that I know how to make block 1 is I will cut my fabric that I need for, I think I need 4 of these blocks, but in the actual fabrics I'm going to use. So I'll cut all my pieces to make 4 blocks and sew them all up, and that will be block 1 done. So I've had people say to me that since they know I do 3D printing, what kind of things do I make with my 3D printers that are related to my quilting and sewing experience? Well, I have made several different things over time, but I found in my backlog of old videos, shorts that I have done, that I had made a short some time ago, probably over a year ago, on YouTube, showing using my 3D printers for making quilt gifts. And so I'm going to insert that little short video in here right now for you to show you what it is that I do. Now, I made this video when I had my older printers, before I got into the bamboo printers. So I'm showing this on my Crealities, KEs at the time. But yeah, here's what I'm talking about.
Happiness is when your 3D printers are cooperating with you and working right away, and they're making some more of my gnome creations, and these are things that I am preparing for the retreat in December of this year. Although this is only January, some of these things take quite a while to make. Like, for example, this ruler rack with the gnomes on the end, that takes 2.5 days to print. And the other is a pattern holder, and it takes 1.5 days to print. So I'm doing a little print mill of 3D prints. I love it.
Okay, so that brings me to the end of this episode of the Idiot Quilter. I hope you liked it. So please, if you liked it, click on the like button. If you're not subscribed here, please subscribe. It helps the channel out quite a bit. And of course, your comments are always welcome. And as I said, I read them every day, and I will answer back if there's something there that I feel needs to have an answer. So if you ask a particular question, I will do my best to give you the answer to that question. So yeah, I hope you have a wonderful week. Sewing with Stephen tomorrow, Wednesday, March the 31st, starts at 9 a.m. All are welcome. Link is in the show notes. Friday, Walter and I will be doing So Chatty as usual, and we'll be talking about Walter's continued experience with free motion quilting, and we'll be continuing our series with Accuquilt. And then on Sunday, we have our weekly Stephen and Walter Live, which is a free-for-all on whatever, because you never know what we're going to say. And just a reminder that usually we're on at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays. This Sunday, because it is Easter Sunday and we are invited to dinner at my sister's place, we will be on 1 hour earlier. We will be on at 3 p.m. Eastern. So just a mental note of that. Okay, I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you later. Bye for now. Hi, I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.